What's your well, you don't see that everyday story? Saw a road runner and a coyote along the same stretch of highway. At around 3 a.m. I saw a man rollerblading through the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton. I could not believe the hotel staff were just letting him get away with this, but no one even attempted to stop him. I ended up getting on the elevator behind him. The man was Jim Carrey. I once saw a squirrel carrying an entire pomegranate around a cemetery. While jogging slowly up a steep hill, I got cheered on by the driver of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. When I was working nights on security, I saw two cats getting chased by a rat. I questioned life for a brief moment. A coyote pup came out of the arroyo and followed me and my dog around while we were walking. They didn't become friends or have any wondrous adventures or anything. Neutering a dog the other day. He appeared to be a cryptorchid, that is, one normal testicle, and one not descended, retained somewhere in the abdomen. Well, we can still neuter these. In fact, it's even more important to do so, since the retained one can later develop cancer if left behind. So, into the abdomen I went, looking for that retained testicle, which I was expecting to find somewhere between the kidney and inguinal ring. Found a uterus. A bride in her wedding gown running in the train station being chased by two women holding the train of her dress. I worked at a high-functioning casino as a cocktail server a few years back. This lady came up to me and asked me if I wanted to see something cool. Me not knowing what to expect says sure, why not? This woman proceeds to pull a purple rag out of her bra and begin to unfold it. I start to hear little chirps coming from the rag. This woman pulled a baby chicken out of her bra in the middle of a casino and let me pet it. She then folded the rag back up, stuffed the baby chicken back in her bra, and told me not to tell anyone. I told everyone. I just shared the longer version of this story earlier today. But to summarize. A person getting arrested while wearing an inmate costume. In the parking lot of a concert in the 80s. A guy with a big blonde fro stripped down and simulated intercourse with the windshield of his Chevelle. Then he dismounted and strutted around like a chicken. Then more windshield coitus. Then chicken. Windshield. Chicken windshield. Chicken. Ambulance. My wife and I were on the loop around Atlanta in bumper-to-bumper traffic. There was a Dodge dually pulling a flatbed trailer in the lane next to us. And on the other side of him was an S10 Blazer, who apparently wanted to get in behind the truck. As soon as the truck was past the Blazer, he started to change lanes. But when he noticed the trailer, he swerved back into his own lane. But he overcorrected. He got that Blazer up on two wheels like in a stunt show. I could see the drive shaft spinning. He held it long enough for me to turn to my wife, tap her on the arm, and say, "Look at that." She saw it. He set it back down, and just kept driving. I was like, are we in a movie? A guy walked into my business with a mastodon tusk, asked if I was interested in buying, face with tears of joy. Blind dude walking into an ambulance face first. Preface: I live in the meth valley of the Midwest, so this isn't surprising. I was in Walmart and I saw this older woman, 65 years old, and she didn't have a shirt or a bra on. Instead, she took her very stretchy pants and lifted them up above her very saggy breasts, forming a sort of a jumper romper, and just went on her way. That's not something I expected or wanted to see. Watched a guy on a quad drop his hat, look back and decide to leave it behind. About 2 minutes later, some guy in a tan car drives up, swerves around it, stops, leans out of the car, picks up the hat, puts it on, and then just drives away like nothing happened. I used to work next door to a mini golf course, and the window of our drive-through looked out over the golf course. One day I'm working the drive-through and look out the window to see 4 people golfing in full fursuits. I was driving home one day, and as I entered my neighborhood, I saw a turkey in mid-flight, about 15 feet in the air. glide across the road and face first into the side of a house. It plopped down on the ground and just as quickly hightailed it around the corner and out of sight. A big-ass old ceramic tub flew off a flatbed truck and exploded into a million pieces on the interstate. I saw a wedding being held in a parking lot. Instead of rings they had gold spike bracelets and the bride had a YOLO tramp stamp gleaming above her jean shorts. I once took the channel from London to Paris. First time ever doing so. Or even being in France for that matter. As I was walking through the station a dude ran up to me and started quacking like a duck. I still wonder how that dude is doing 2 years later. Once in high school I went into the bathroom to see a kid crying outside a stall that had a massive 8-inch long, black as the night, peanut spiked turd bobbing in the toilet. I still feel bad for that kid. A woman at the 7/11 was trying to put hot water on a cup of instant ramen. Accidentally put coffee. Worked as a waiter and after we finished one night a drunk man was walking down the street. One of my coworkers recognized him and asked if he was the German opera singer doing a show in the city. He answered yes and asked if we would like to hear him sing. So he gave us a 3 minutes private concert in the middle of the night drunk off his ass. A kid. Looked no older than 8. On a mini motorcycle cut off my sub. Then he parked in the middle of the school courtyard. We noticed he had a girl on the back who looked even younger and did not have a helmet. They jumped off and ran away. The bike was there unattended still running and he didn't come when we left almost an hour later, and the thing was still running. Pic. https I. Imgur. .com/ocvit www. JPG. Was in the tribunal talking to a friend. The new prosecutor passes by us wearing shorts and flip-flops with a fully dressed full court upper body. Morning, Your Honor, the bastard says as if nothing is happening. In shock I keep looking at him as he strolls across the lobby. Looking out my third-story dorm room window and watching the contents of the fourth-floor lounge fly past. Trail riding up in a fairly isolated part of north-central Washington state when 3 emus ran out of the trees. Horses were not impressed. Those birds lived up there for several years menacing anyone who came around. Driving home one day down our old suburban Atlanta street of ranch-style homes. My mom and I saw a full-ass peacock just walking down the middle of the road. Once saw a man proceed to scratch his ass crack inside of his pants, smell his hand and then eat a sandwich with the same hand on public transportation. That was certainly interesting. Our tiny kitten had stolen a slice of pepperoni pizza and was hissing and snarling and fighting off 2 adult dogs and an adult cat. Nobody was getting that slice of pizza from him. I helped a German guy at CVS jump his car and to thank me he gave me a fancy bottle of shampoo. I have a farm. I have ducks on one side and pigs on the other. One of my male ducks was awfully rappy of the females. So we put him over with the pet pigs. He could easily leave if he wanted. But he chooses to stay. He can be seen lying on top of his beloved potbelly friend, nibbling his ear and making sweet love while my poor potbelly piggy boy just lays on his side in the sun without a care in the world. Edit. Or an award. Thank you. Tire flying off the truck in front of you. Aiming in your direction. Hits a small pothole, bounces high, misses you entirely. Thank goodness. Must have had a horse show up my ass that day. Some guy cut me off with a trailer on a road with a speed limit of 35. A few minutes later I happened to pull into the same gas station as him. I try my best not look at him. I don't want to start anything. I hear, "Hey." I make a beeline for the gas station door. Then I hear a whistle coming from the direction where he was. Still trying to ignore him. I finally turn around when he comes jogging up to me. Rough-looking fella says, "Sorry for cutting you off back there. I was low on gas. I drive for a living and come across a-holes daily." So this guy apologizing threw me off. I said no worries and thanked him for apologizing and we went our separate way. TLDR, a-hole driver cuts me off and then apologizes to me in public. There's someone in a few towns over from me that drives a white lifted van. A whole ass van with probably one of the biggest lifts I've ever seen in person. My very first day in New York City. I arrived at Newark and was getting a combination of bus train to Penn Station. A family came running behind us towards the platform. A crazed redhead screaming. A voice behind her yelled, "Mindy. Mindy, you don't know where you're going." Then another voice yelled, "Where's Mindy going?" And Mindy finally replied, "There's only one train." During the bus ride portion of the journey I saw police clearing up a crime scene of what looked like a mob hit. Chalk outlines. Bullet casings. Body bags. Crime scene tape. Although I am led to believe this can be seen every day. Finally in Times Square a man approached me. Put his hands on my shoulders and asked, "Excuse me sir. Are you Jesus Christ? What a city. Eh?" Driving a trailer when oh shit must have a flat on trailer. The tire passed me on left and I was like, no, not flat. Pulled over, it was right tire gone. WTF. Never figured that out. Was at a hotel front desk in Dallas on a business trip. Turned around and saw a group of people in mascot costumes and I screamed. Turned out it was a furry convention which I had to Google as never heard of it before. Then saw one in full costume by the pool sunbathing. Must have been roasting. My family and I were coming back from church. We on the freeway heading home. My sister was driving. And my dad was in the passenger seat. My dad had his hand outside of the window while grabbing the rooftop. Out of nowhere we hear that our dad was disgusted by something. He brings his hand back in the car and sees that a bird had covered the top part of his hand with poop. Everyone started laughing. And amazed at what had just occurred. It was a 1 in a million situation. The bird had to land the poop on my dad's hand while the car was going full speed on the freeway. A guy in his mid-20s rolling down the street on a trike with a boombox on his shoulder blasting EDM. This was 2018. My family was on vacation in San Diego. One day we decided to go to the San Diego Zoo. While we were there we stopped at the polar bear exhibit. We got to watch as a duck landed in the enclosure and got eaten by a bear. Someone on a tour bus recorded this video. https://yahoo. BGLGNLTZNT2Y. My 3-5-year-old son says this all the time. But about extremely mundane things. Butter on a potato? You don't see that every day. Car with lots of bumper stickers? You don't see that every day. $100 bill? You don't see that every day. Walking down the street in London 2 years ago. A dog appeared out of nowhere and took a giant shit in the middle of the sidewalk half a block in front of us. Immediately after, a man grabbed a frying pan from a pile of trash bags on the side of the street, scooped up the mess, and dumped the whole thing into a paper shopping bag. A few years ago, while visiting family in the south of Spain, I live in the States. I was out at a bar with my cousin. His girlfriend's family owned the bar. And it was small but packed. I went upstairs to the only bathroom to go pee. Opened the unlocked door and walked in on a FFM threesome in full swing. Ass and tits and everything LMAO. Immediately tried to cover my eyes while backing out the door and yelling lo siento, lo siento. My cousin. His girlfriend. And her mom ran up and promptly removed them. But I had zero desire to touch anything in the bathroom after that LMAO. This was also the first night I ever tried absinthe. And skinny dipped in the Mediterranean for the first time. Was a solid night. It is very normal in other countries. But not where I live. I saw a person of color in a bus one day. It was the only time I saw a black person in my country and I live in the biggest city, don't get me wrong. It wasn't the first time. But before it was somewhere abroad.